Alex, it's Chris for you, right?
Hi Chris, you alright?
Good, thanks. We're asking everyone, so can you tell us a bit about Sir Alex Ferguson coming in, how that came about, and what it's given your guys, would you hope?
I guess through connections with Jed Mason, good friends and shared investment with racehorses, and then connections from being just a proud northerner, I guess, and having some influence in winning cups. We thought we'd try and just wring a little bit of gold out of him, and he didn't disappoint. He had the lads on the edge of the seats, and he came up with some real good bits of advice. I mean, not new stuff, but when it comes from Sir Alex's mouth, it's gospel, isn't it?
Is it just an aura and a presence someone like that brings that can have an impact, do you think?
If we're relying on Alex Ferguson on a Tuesday morning to win us this cup, there's something wrong. It is, small percentages of what he can add, an increased feeling and hype around how special this week is, and we did all of those things. It was good to have him in, and good to have him in our corner as well.
Is the challenge for you this week to keep the lads down from being on the ceiling too early in the week? I mean, what's the sort of the balance in terms of sort of that emotional build-up?
We kind of started it today. We started, hence why Sir Alex was in and Wayne Hoyle was presenting to the boys. We started to touch on our mentality, taking other legends' point of view and instruction, and we'll hone that down again come Thursday as to how we want to use that advice for our ends, for what we know about ourselves, and that'll come Thursday. So we kind of go fat to thin from Monday through to the weekend, and we'll start to kind of thin slice what our mentality is going to be, what we're going after come Thursday, and then on Friday we've got a pitch walk at Twickenham, so we'll dehumanise the stadium a little bit when we get down there.
And finally, from me, just having popped in a couple of times last week, everyone seemed sort of relaxed, in good spirits. Is there any sense of apprehension amongst the guys who this is all new territory, there's quite a lot of them, or what's the mood that you detect so far?
I don't sense it, but you can't recreate it, can you? So you don't know. We tried to. We've made the pitch bigger, so it fits Twickenham size, and we've had Sync, who are the stadium AV guys that we have down at the AJ Bell. They've come down and been playing crowd noises for line breaks and similar situations that were received this weekend to try and create that noise level, which is difficult to recreate in a training venue. So we've controlled what we can to make it feel as real as possible. But there's nothing like the pressure of the occasion that really brings the bones out in the team and the player. So we're yet to see whether we got strong bones.
Thanks, Alex.
Cheers, Chris.
Hi Al, Dan from the Telegraph here.
Dan, I know you from the Telegraph. We've known each other for years. Stop bragging.
Alex was a sort of famous exponent of mind games, and his team were very good at getting under the skin of the opposition. Is there any thought of using those type of tactics, even though you obviously have some residual friendships with the opposition? No games. But the only game is the one that's going to be out in the field. I think what Alex referred to, what we've been working on, is around resilience, consistency and concentration, and being in the moment. Like, I know it's cliche, but it is going to be the odd moment that one or the other team switches off from, which will open up that opportunity, which I do believe will win or lose us the game. And I know we asked you about this after the semi-final, but does the fact it's Saracens and you have so many connections there make it any more special or odd for you in any sense?
Yeah, it's special because I'm happy for them that they've proven over the years the sustenance, the foundation of the organisation, which I was part of and very proud to be part of, was built on and for the right reasons. Like, they're back there again. So I'm really happy that they've they've been able to show that and keep that squad together and find form again, like real form. They're a different team to what they were 3 years ago. But yeah, there's no, you know, apart from the fact that I still have a deep affection for them, and certainly I dare say it, you know, friendship and love for some of them. It's that spurs me on to want to win more, because you tend to, whilst they hope for the best for them, they're the people you want to beat the most, aren't they? The people you love.
Thanks for your time.
Cheers.
Hi Alex, you got it? You all right?
Yeah, I'm very well, thanks. You? Are you getting on?
Yeah, pretty good, thank you. We mentioned at the semi-final you were going to see, or you go down to an event for Jackson Ray last week.
Yeah.
And Mark McCall said to us yesterday he'd seen you.
Yeah.
On a night like that, with Mark, and I know Steve Borthwick was there as well, you talk about everything except rugby, or did you have a lot of chat about rugby and coaching and maybe this final?
I thought it'd be more awkward than it was, to be honest, in our openness to speak about the game, parts of the game, where we're at, where Sale are at now, where Saracens had come from, and where they are at now. They're, you know, a totally different point in their growth and their journey. So the first thing he did was give me a cuddle, say well done. That's what I'm talking about. That's the relationship that I have with him. He's truly pleased that I've with this group managed to, you know, start to scratch on our full potential. We're not there yet, but you know, he's in support of that. And then at the end, you know, kind of coyly, like sheepishly, I was like, Smalley, like win or lose, and I was skirting around the issue of coming and finding him after the game, and he's like, Al, he's like, of course, mate, you know, what will be, will be. Because it's only his experience from being in my position that gives him, you know, the wherewithal to know that it's going to be all right. You know, I've still got to witness that, but he's like 10 years on from me, isn't he? And he's the one saying, no problem, we're having a beer after, whichever way the result goes. So, yeah, getting back to the point, there was rugby talked about, wasn't awkward, and I left it knowing that we're going to be mates after this final regardless.
Does that say something about you guys as personalities, or the game of rugby in general, that you're able to do that?
I'd like to think it says something about the game of rugby in general, or at least where it's going. You know, certainly from my experience, it was every club was a closed shop in the past and not willing to share, and as a result, you know, difficult to grow because you only exist inside your own bubble. That's not the case. I mean, my relationship with those guys from Saracens is unique, but I have a good relationship with Gorgeous George from Gloucester. That's just one person. Like the London Irish coaches I've spoken to pre and post our games, and we share information and references on players, I guess, in terms of recruitment with those guys. I could probably go down the list. Like, I think the old school look after your own, covet what you know stereotype around the game is fading out, and I'd like to think that you know, looking to the Antipodean teams who share everything, that there's more growth that can be had in sharing and having good relationships. You can put it aside that week, can't you? You can focus on your professional competitiveness for 1 week, but for the rest, the other 51 weeks, surely we all want to grow.
Just the other one I had is a slightly random question, but you during matches, you stand on the touchline, whereas generally speaking, the head coach or the director of rugby will be up in the stand. Any particular reason for that? There's
a few reasons for it. It's not showmanship. It's nothing to do with that. There is, and there always has been, a group of coaches in a glass box somewhere with a computer in front of them, and it used to be with Mark McCall behind you, who was passionate, let's just say, during game time. The computer in front of me and with a DOR behind me, I felt was distractionary to my understanding and feel of the game. You know, and anyone knows you can analyse and through given enough time and enough video footage, understand what the fault correction is. But what's been proven is that people of experience, given enough time within the game, can thin slice and able to look at a picture and from a feeling understand what the fault correction is. Good players can do it, like George Ford can do it. Like you ask him at half time, he's nailed it, what the fixes are, what the focus points are. So I get a better feel of what's going on the field, being closer to it with less distractions in terms of video, playback and other coaches in my ear. That's one reason. The other reason is I can give them a hug or a handshake, depending on their disposition, when they come off the field. Because I think that's important, however they've played. Because no one goes out there to have a shocker. So I thank them for their efforts and for the contribution. I think that's important. And now and again, I get to say a choice word to the lad that's running on. Yeah, so there's three there, aren't there? 3 reasons.
Thank you. Thanks. See you Saturday.
Cheers, Hugh. Thanks, mate.
Afternoon, Alex. Have I jumped in?
Yeah, go for it.
You go first, John.
All right, thanks, mate. Cheers. Hi, Alex. How are you doing?
Good, John. Kieran could have probably answered your questions anyway, mate, so, you know, you should have let him go on. He would have...
Cheers. Just going back to the Sir Alex stuff, I just wondered, Alex, whether there's something that you got from him from a coaching point of view, or whether it was more team stuff, really.
Well, yeah, of course. Like, I listened intently, and there's a lot of what you have to do in coaching, or was important in coaching, is cyclic. Like in most professions and industries, there's staples which reoccur, particularly at this point in the season with championship winning teams. So a lot of what Al was saying, Sir Alex, was saying, I'm not allowed to call him Al, I don't think, to his face. It makes me sound dead pally. Reaffirmed kind of things I've learned and forgotten, which you do over the years. So it reaffirmed some of the messages we've been putting to the boys, and also, you know, direction for me to try and guide them and steer them towards the back end of the week, which is what I generally try and do.
Yeah, thanks. Just one more from me. Apologies, it's a bit of a broad one, but I just wondered if, having worked with them both now, could you compare and contrast what it's like having Owen Farrell around the club as a leader and George Ford around the club as a leader?
Very similar in terms of a lot of their attributes that make them superlative players, like their decision making is second to none. Their standards are higher than everybody else's for the most part, and as a result, they look to drive other people to meet those standards. They are different in some ways. Owen, I mean, you can see these differences, but the nature of the man is highly emotional, aggressive when needed to be. And I think he thrives off that. Whereas my experience with George is someone, you know, when people will follow him for what he does, you know, he wears his heart on his sleeve, whereas George, they won't follow him so much by the example, but for who he is. Like there's a softer tone about him. There's a more persuasive manner through conversation that inspires people in a slightly different way. You know, for us, for this group, for an emotionally highly strung group, George Ford has been, I believe, the missing keystone. He's been that catalyst, because we were good with Rob at the helm, a player who's got nominee for Players Player of the Year, like really good with him at the helm. But George has added to the team by way of his calmness calmness in adversity, and his clear direction. And that's, I don't know if we'd get that with Faz. We'd definitely get clarity, we'd definitely get drive, like they get that Saracens, but there's a calm aura, and I've said this before, around George, which serves our team really well.
Thanks, Alex.
Afternoon, Alex.
All right, there we go. You've got a nice misty effect going on there, Kieran, like a 60s porn mist, if you don't mind me saying so. Is that intentional? Is that just to soften your features, or what?
It's not intentional, no.
Good. Good.
Moving on to more serious matters. Ben Curry will have missed the final. Can you explain the nature of the injury and the rough time scale of how long he will be out?
He's under the knife today. The nature of the injury is he was in a jackal position and he got twisted kind of down and back away from it. So I only assume overstretching his hamstring, of which there are 3 muscles. We're getting quite physiological in this. 3 muscles. He's torn one through completely, and the other one might as well be torn through completely for the severity of the tear. So we'll have him both of those muscles operated on today. He should be back in time for the start of the World Cup, but that's like being fit. He would have done none of the prep and none of the leading. So it'll be wholly on Steve Borthwick's sizably square shoulders to see fit whether or not he's worthy of being included.
Have you or any of the medical staff at the club spoken to Steve since Ben got injured?
Oh yeah, the medical team. We'll be liaising to them like on a daily basis. So about all our lads, you know, because there's a few bubbling in the pot for contention for the World Cup.
I can't imagine Ben is kind of sat around not really having an influence. I'm sure even though he won't be playing on Saturday, I'm sure he will be desperate to play a part, considering how big a role he's played both as a player and as a captain this season.
That was the conversation we had last Tuesday when we sat down, and he was in then, and I just said, look, like, firstly, how are you feeling? What do you want? Because I can tell you what I want. Like, still need his leadership, and we've seen the influence that George Ford had when he wasn't playing, just by the small conversations you can have around the place, by his tutelage to maybe someone who's coming in on the bench, who's coming in started, you know, mentioning no names to give nothing away there, but he's been very much involved. He's been getting good luck messages in from Man United players, and he's been upbeat despite the fact that he might miss a World Cup and he will miss a final. He has been super positive, which is a testament to his purpose. Like, he's still really, really happy and over the moon that we've got to this position. So he's doing everything he can in his power for us to make the most of it.
Dan Dupree also got injured in the semi-final. Is that a reoccurrence or an after effect of the original injury, and what is it, just in case if he will now have surgery maybe slightly earlier than he would have done?
It's a reoccurrence of the same injury, which we knew was like a dice roll. Like, we knew it was loose, and some of his muscles were loose, and it could happen, and it did happen. He said he would play this weekend. I mean, his shoulder's dislocated, but it shows you what they're willing to do in terms of putting the body on the line.
Other than those two in Cobus, is it a fully fit squad to choose from for Saturday?
Yes.
A lot of talk has been through the season about the achievement of Leicester, despite their coaching staff being ransacked midway through the season, and how well they did, and they did do very well to finish third. Obviously, Mike Forshaw left as defence coach at the end of January. Are you proud of the fact that despite that, and that could have caused perhaps some issues, losing a defence coach midway through a season could have been disruptive, that on the whole Jamie Langley's come in and done an excellent job, and the defence is as good post Mike as it was pre his departure? I
am happy because the decision ultimately rested on my shoulders. So, like, if it didn't work, I'd only have myself to blame. But as I said, I'll say now what I said back then. I had full faith in Jamie being a really good coach, good communicator, and having respect to the boys. The rest, the technical side, in terms of systems, that you can just learn but it's your ability to engage and inspire, which is the true skill, particularly in defence, and he's shown that he's got mastery of those two skills.
How is the search for a new hooker going?
Yeah, still ongoing. I've had a couple of Zooms, chats, and we've got 3 good hookers. We saw that when Ethan Kane came on against Newcastle. We're not going to get held to ransom for the fact that the Armageddon scenario would suggest we need 4. Like most teams have carried 4 hookers. So, if we can, we will. Earlier rather than later. If not, there's a World Cup to take place. And if someone does get injured, which I hope they don't, there's injury dispensation to take into account.
Are you finding it a little bit more challenging considering how late down the line it is that many players might have already decided what their futures are, and therefore looking around now there are perhaps fewer options out there?
Yes. I think 2 years ago I would be flapping right now, but understanding how the shifting climate of this game that we've been exposed to in this last 12 months, the end of a cycle that occurs post World Cup, and the movement and migration of players from international teams to various different areas of the world. That learning that through experience, allows me to take a breath and say, like, it's gonna be all right. Well, I hope it is. That's what I'm saying to myself.
Is Luke Cowan-Dickey still on the radar?
Yeah, he's on the radar. As I said, like, there's no progression there. I mean, you can write what you want, lads. Last time it made headlines, didn't it? But who wouldn't want to have Luke Cowan-Dickey if you've got some coin left in your pocket and a place in your squad? He's a good player.
Thank you, Alex, and good luck Saturday.
Cheers, Kieran.
Alex, Miles here.
Miles? Sorry. Yeah, Miles. I just can't see your face there. I've got your name. Hello, mate. You're not coming through there, pal. I think it's your connection.
Alex, I'll jump in.
Okay. It's just your connection, Miles. It's robot talk.
That's all right, yeah.
Okay. Who wants to go?
Sorry.
I don't. I'm not getting anything here, lads. Sorry. I don't know if you are.
Try again. Is that coming through?
Just about. No, mate.
Alex,
Yes.
can I ask you a question?
Yes, please. Let's please, yeah.
Just on the subject of Sir Alex coming in, what is the process?
Is that any better? Can you get that, Alex?
Oh.
No.
I can.
Okay.
But Alex thinks he's in here. He's come in. So I guess I don't know how this works. You can fight it out between yourselves, lads.
Okay, I'll just finish this question.
Okay.
Just quickly. The process of getting Sir Alex Ferguson in, you just got him on speed dial? Do you just call him in? Do you have to go through an agent? How does that happen that he walks in and...
A special Man United red phone, like the bat phone we have in the corner of the office for emergencies. No, I just got a call Monday. He wasn't part of the... And we talked about him for the semi-finals. What you're going to be careful of is not throwing too much at the boys in weeks like this, not overstimulating as what we've talked about already, not having too many messages. But he's a smart customer, and I got a call from Jed on Sunday, asking what their weekly schedule looked like and would we want him in on Tuesday morning if it could work, and it just all kind of fell into place. Right time, we said the right things, and it was well worth it. It wasn't a gamble, but it was certainly a bit of a risk that was outside of my control that paid off. this morning.
Jamie Peacock won before the semi-final seemed to have a similar effect, yeah?
Yeah. None of us know Sir Alex extremely well. A lot of the boys, the league boys here, know Jamie Peacock, and his messages and the calibre of man he was, the kind of man he was. So like I say, it's about him being intentional with your emotional build-up during weeks like this, and not just, being able to keep a lid in it, drip gold as the week goes on, as opposed to like just throw everything at him at the start of the week. So it was slightly different prospect, but it worked out, I believe, really, really well. So very, very, very thankful for Sir Alex for coming in.
Just the last one from me. You looked as though you really rode an emotional wave through the semi-final, through the week, and through that game on game day. Can you ride a similar wave this weekend, or do you have to have a different approach for a final?
Yeah, no, similar. When you try to recreate something, it's never quite as good. Never is. So same tone, but the wave, by definition, and the magnitude of the game has to be bigger. You've got to be able to ride kind of those monster waves that you see, and not get afraid of looking down and the consequence. You actually got to enjoy the ride. I dare say, with the nature of the ebbs and flows of the game, that there's going to be times where we're going to feel like we're on top, and times where we feel like we're getting barrelled. Using the surf analogy. That's the nature of these games, and the number of times you can just come up for air and find yourself again will be the major focus of our emotion regulation. That's the key, Al. Like, with all these ups and downs and peaks and troughs and the crowd noise and everything else, the consequence, are we able to, through it all, be able to keep a consistent emotional intensity for 80 minutes?
Thanks, Sam. Cheers.
Thanks, pal. How we doing there, boys?
Can I jump back in?
No.
With one.
Of course you can. Yeah. Go on, Dan.
John was Ross earlier was saying one of the big differences between you and Dimes was the confidence you've given to younger guys. I'm thinking particularly those guys in the back three, Joe, Tom and Aaron, and just what that taking that step as a coach to entrust those young guys to go out and perform, and just how maybe they've reflected your faith in them this season.
I've said it a few times. As you can imagine, I had a few interviews today, and it was like, what's been the difference with this group, over, I guess, the last 2.5 years? And I do believe that it's been resources and belief. Like, just no one's truly believed in them, or in seeing the potential, like pushing them to strive to get there, and having the resources to back it up, like supporting them to be able to do it. So, believing in a young lad with the talent like Joe Carpenter or Aaron Reid or Tom Roebuck's got isn't a hard thing or intentional for me to do. Like, what's the alternative? You squash him. You tell him you're no good. Like, no, every day I tell him they're good. I tell him they can get better. But every day, I tell him what I think, what I feel, which is these guys are as